Hello everybody, it's your boy Bandit Banks here, and welcome back to my channel. In quite potentially the stupidest video I've ever done, I'm going to be spending 1 month on the worst island in Sea of Thieves, Old Faithful Isle. This video quite obviously took quite a lot of pain and suffering to manage to, film, so if you could drop a like, I would really appreciate it. But other than that, let's roll the shitty intro and get straight into this horrible video. While I am here stocking up, I feel like now is a great time to go over the basic ground rules of this challenge. The first rule is I have to be on Old Faithful Island at sunrise every morning, just to keep track and kind of as a marker. With that being said, I am allowed to go to nearby islands, shipwrecks, and all that, though I can't use my sloop. I have to either use a rowboat or swim. Second, if I die, I have to restart that day over. Have to survive the entire day. This does not include black screens, because you can't really predict black screens and they are really stupid. So if I black screen, I just gotta get back to the island as quick as possible. The final disclaimer is that while originally I wanted to do this all in one sitting, 12 hours straight, which is how long the 30 days is, I realized about 2 days in that that wasn't gonna happen, so I ended up breaking this down into two 15-day segments. So, sue me, I guess. But without further ado, let's start this horrible journey of surviving 30 days on Old Faithful Isle. So here we go. The sun rises and my sloop sinks on the morning of day 1. This means it is now just me and my dog Bandito against the world. The first thing to do is obviously collect all these supplies from the water. I brought a lot of animal crates with me as I wanted to start, I don't know, a bit of a family, just something to do, so I grabbed those from the water, also capturing my first chicken while doing this, and then begin exploring my new home for a little bit. I find this lovely place near the top of Old Faithful Isle, and it is where I decide I want to set up my temporary camp. The rest of the day and night is spent capturing chickens and bringing them up to my new home. The majority of day 2 was spent collecting more chickens. I had to go all over the island to hunt them, but nothing too terrible happened on this. Oh, damn it. Yeah, I black screened. It sucked, but thankfully I spawned on an island somewhat close and was able to pick up an extra ammo crate, so I guess no harm, no foul. I then spent the rest of the day collecting chickens, killing enemies, and also had my first player ship sighting at night. The morning of day 3, I watched the sunrise with Bandito and my chickens, then proceeded to finish capturing all of the chickens, filling up every chicken cage I have. Then all that was left to do was bring these supplies from the beach up to my camp. While bringing up an ammo crate, I also noticed this glitch in the terrain, which is really encouraging that this game has been out for so long and the devs have neglected Old Faithful so bad that this is still here. I then hid all the pig crates I brought because I didn't want to have to be feeding pigs every couple minutes because pigs require food and chickens don't, but I did decide to capture one pig as a pet. However, while I was cooking rice in real life, the noises the pig made were kind of annoying me, so I decided to end its short life just a bit early. Day 4 started with me deciding to take a storage crate around and loot the island a little bit. I found this cool little campfire spot with a lever that can be pulled to lower a cage, I imagine for a tall tale or something. Then I found this really cool cage elevator type thing, which again is pretty awesome. Never mind. This place sucks. Based on where I spawned, I decided to scuttle, which was the right call because I got a spawn at the island right next to Old Faithful. This island had a harpoon rowboat, which was perfect, as I could just row that over and not risk a server merge by taking my ship. I also found the chicken crate I lost when I first black screened, and picked up the storage crate I lost when I just black screened. Day 5 started by finding this cannon rowboat here on this beach, followed by a bit of a peaceful day. I mostly spent fishing. By the time night fell, I had acquired quite a nice little stash of fish, and I then spent the night cooking up all the fish I had caught at this campfire inside a cave. The morning of day 6, I unfortunately failed my merchant voyage. I then spotted this shipwreck not too far from Old Faithful Isle, and figured I would row over there and check it out. I proceeded to loot the shipwreck and then row home as the sun set behind me. As I was bringing all my loot up to the top of Old Faithful, I realized that 3 of my chickens had just disappeared into thin air. Obviously I was a bit sad, but no time for that, so I reorganized and continued on with my work. The morning of day 7, chickens just keep disappearing. I'm starting to get a little frustrated now. I'm also starting to lose my mind just a little, as I decide today I want to count all the skulls on this rock. I then realized that is a very stupid idea and I shouldn't do that. I also noticed that my kegs are starting to disappear, so I now understand that everything of value to me is starting to leave. I then bring the cannon rowboat over to my little private beach and call it a night. Day 8 started with some real-life digestive issues, so I came over to this little safe island, emoted, and just kinda hoped for the best. I then reorganized my 2 storage crates, making one as empty as possible, and took the empty storage crate along for a bit of a massacre. During this massacre, I found these 2 chickens that were clinging on for dear life, hiding together under a balcony. But unfortunately, you know what needs to happen. All I did, and I mean literally all I did day 9 from sunrise to sunset, was cook up the meat from my massacre. That's it. I also found out at night that you could catch on fire from campfires. Didn't know that before, know it now. Day 10 was another day of cooking and wandering. I was pretty bored at this point in the challenge, but I'm so far committed at this point that I'm getting it done. It's gonna happen. I also kill a few more animals at the end of the day, just because. Day 11, I want to get this cooking done, but I still have this massive pile of chicken. So I developed something called the Banks Baking Meta. This meta is essentially sprinting between 2 campfires on opposite sides of Old Faithful, and as long as you do it correctly, each time you arrive at a new campfire, the meat will be perfectly cooked. By about halfway through the day, I had this route mastered. And as night fell, all my meat had now been cooked. And it only took an hour. The morning of day 12, I take my rowboat and row on over to a nearby seapost to sell all of my cooked meat. I gotta get back to Old Faithful somewhat quickly though, so I begin rowing back. However, on the way, the island cannons decide to start shooting at me, and I need to dodge those cannons because I still can't die. After narrowly avoiding that situation, I take my storage crate back up to my camp, and nearly everything is gone. All of my chickens are gone, most of my treasure's gone, even my kegs. At this point, I'm literally pleading for this challenge to be over, and I'm not even halfway. I shoot off some fireworks, and then just kinda mope around for the rest of the day. Day 13, I want vengeance on the animals from Old Faithful, as they've clearly been the ones stealing my treasure, so I go around on another massacre. And then at nighttime it is dinner time, like in real life, so that's why I AFK'd on my safety rock for a bit. Day 14, I only have 2 days left in my first 15 days, so I don't really know what to do. I'm just kidding, I know exactly what I'm doing today. I'm cooking. You know it, I know it, we all know it. I start by cooking in this beautiful cave, then realize I need to speed up the process a little bit, so I begin the Banks Baking Meta. Day 15, I finish cooking up the rest of the stuff in my storage crate, as I am a bit of a commendation hunter. I want those juicy, juicy commendations, or in this case, milestones. Once I finish up, I grab a stool, bringing it up to my now empty camp area, and watch the sunrise on day 16, which means that my first 15 days are finally over. I then immediately kamikaze myself with an ocean crawler. Just before day 16, I arrive at Old Faithful Isle to unload all of my crates, and honestly, I'm pretty positive and optimistic about the next 15 days. With that being said, the sun rises and my ship sinks on the morning of day 16, so here we go again. Most of this day was spent capturing chickens and moving in to my new base, which I decided would be in this little cave on the beach. I also noticed that there was a significant increase in the amount of enemies I was fighting, so this might be a little more difficult than the first 15 days. The morning of day 17, I watched the sunrise from inside my cave on a stool I found, and I gotta say, the view could be better. With that being said, I then found a captain's chest, which I swiftly added to my treasure collection. I then messed around with the elevator that I had black screened at last time and discovered that this one cage was bugged and I couldn't get in it no matter what, which is what caused the black screen last time. I also visited my old home to reminisce on the horrible first 15 days I spent on this island, and then spent most of the night gathering kegs. The morning of day 18, holy shit! Is that the moon in front of the sun, or is that another planet? That seems really big. Wow, I never really spotted that before, because I never really paid attention, but that's awesome. So that's what I spent the morning of day 18 watching. I then noticed that the glitch in the terrain is still there, so go rare. I then began cooking something in real life, found a rowboat, and then finished cooking something in real life. The morning of day 19, I decided to do something I had never done before. Finish a riddle on Old Faithful Isle without cheating. And I was able to crack out the 3 riddles relatively quickly. I was shocked, to be honest, but by midday I had found the chest. I then brought that chest back to my home base, added it to my collection, and spent an unhealthy amount of time staring at this anchor, wondering why we haven't seen anchors on our ships, like why they're invisible, and if this is what they look like, or if they're more, I don't know, something else. I don't know. I was thinking. I was deep in thought. The morning of day 20, I spot a brig on the horizon, so naturally I rushed to get a better view, but it had already disappeared. I then decided to explore the island just a little bit more to see if there was anything I hadn't found yet. Peeped on this pig from way up high, field goaled myself through this tree, and then watched a beautiful and peaceful sunset. Yeah, that happened. I died. Which is just wonderful because it means that today didn't count. So, when I spawned in, I rushed back to the island as I had to be there for sunrise, so I didn't miss 2 days. I watched the sunrise on day 20 again, and then I realized that 2 of my chickens were dead. As I was mourning this loss, an ocean crawler spawned and immediately killed 2 more. So everything's starting to go downhill pretty quick now. I then went to refill those cages, and then cooked their family in front of them. I then safely sat on a stool the rest of the night. To start day 21 off right, me and Bandito watched the sunrise. I begin to loot this shipwreck, and I know that I need to play it safe. I don't want to have to die again because, you know, it's just extra day. That's a mega keg, and I'm taking that because it's too much fun. While looting, I also noticed this shark doing quite a weird dance, but I try not to judge. I then row back to Old Faithful, putting all the treasure in my treasure room, and putting the mega keg in a nice safe spot. Also, my chickens disappeared again. I then spend the rest of the night wandering around picking up more things that can kill me. Day 22 starts with some real-life digestive issues, and I won't lie, this one took up a good portion of the day. I then decide to make a keg line out of boredom and blow it up because that's fun. I am then running around and oh my god, is that a beautiful sunset. Wow. I am suddenly a lot less miserable about being stuck on this stupid island. I then decide to load a white flare onto the highest peak I can find, so that if any ship passes by, I can shoot that flare off and signal to them to come hang out, you know, maybe get someone's attention. I don't know, I'm getting desperate here. Day 23 rolls around, and remember that big rock with all the skulls on it that I was gonna count earlier but said that would be a really dumb idea? Yeah, so I spent the morning of day 23 counting these, and I'm pretty sure that including the skulls on the top, there's a total of 91. I think. Anyways, I then realized that I have a quest for a Breath of the Sea at the Treasury of the Secret Wilds, which happens to be really close to Old Faithful Isle. So I spend the rest of the day gearing up for this adventure. I wait for the sun to rise, standing on Old Faithful Isle, and the second it does, I sword lunge and row out to the treasury. I then swim down and begin cracking out the waves of the treasury. Before too long, I've killed the boss and opened the vault, loading all of the loot into this convenient mermaid. I then swim back to the surface, load all the loot on the rowboat, and head back to Old Faithful in pretty good time. The rest of the night is spent moving the loot from the rowboat to the base. Day 25 was, it was a day. The day started by moving the rest of the loot from the rowboat to my camp. You fucking kidding me? Oh. Yeah, I died again. To some bullshit. Which means that this day doesn't count again. I spawn at a nearby fort, cannon over to Old Faithful and swim it because I don't want to risk black screening on my ship. Looked for the loot that would have sank on the exploded rowboat, but couldn't find it, and spent the rest of the day just being safe, though I did figure out that I could sit on this barrel in the tower, which I didn't know. And then day 25 started again. I decided to row over to the nearby fort that I just spawned at and collect the kegs, because I wanted to do a big chain explosion. Nothing could go wrong. So yeah, I black screened again, no problem, right? So I actually spawned under Plunder Outpost, which took me a minute to get out of, and I needed to get out of it because I didn't want to drown. However, being at Plunder Outpost was bad, because I wanted to swim to Old Faithful Isle, as not risk black screening on my ship, so I figured I would just scuttle until I got a closer spawn. I scuttled 11 times over the next 14 minutes. I didn't get one spawn north of Plunder Outpost. That is... oh my god, that's insane. Sharkbait Cove. I can't even... I was thoroughly upset. After scuttling until sunrise the next morning, I was so frustrated that I just quit on the spot. It was a bit impulsive, but I was on the edge. That leads us to the cheerful morning of day 26. Well, actually, just the night before, I was loading all the supplies onto Old Faithful when the tower almost killed me by accident. So that was a great start to the almost first day. And you might be asking yourself, well, what did you do on day 26 then? Well, I did what I always do. I collected my chickens. I do not care if you judge me, because this is my third family, and I will spend my days how I please. But yeah, by the end of the day, I had my chickens, and then I just did some cooking. The morning of day 27, I kept cooking. Then I decided to do a new riddle that I had just picked up, and thanks to my enormous brain, I solved it pretty quick. I then went to grab a drink of water in real life, and, well, I'll let this clip speak for itself. That was pretty close. I then went to a tower and actually got my drink. Thankfully I had my headset on, so I was able to hear the skeletons before it was too late. Oh, and I spent the rest of the night cooking. The morning of day 28, I realized that I do not want to be remembered as a failure. So I'm gonna finish the mission that I started on day 25. The morning of day 28, I row over to the nearby fort, collect as many kegs as I can, and bring them on back to Old Faithful Isle. The rest of the day is spent lining these kegs up in a keg line that I will blow up, and then searching the island to see if I can find any other kegs to add to this line. The morning of day 29, you know what I did. I blew that shit up, and boy was it glorious. After that, I decided that I wanted to do some morally questionable experiments on my chickens. First, I wanted to see how many of them I could collateral. So I lined my shot up, took it, and they didn't die. And after unloading an entire clip into them, I realized that my chickens are so battle-hardened from spending a month on Old Faithful Isle that they became bulletproof, which is awesome. I ended up having to do my experiment on wild chickens at night, and I found out you could only kill one at a time. The rest of the evening was spent cooking up the remaining meat. And finally, we have arrived. I watched the beautiful sunrise on day 30 and decided that today I'm going to take a trip down memory lane. This of course starts at the beach we arrived at every time I set foot on Old Faithful Isle. I then of course have to visit the peak where I set up my camp for the first 15 days of this series. I then stopped by the place where I first black screened, which is still a bit of a sore memory, and then went to see my safety rock, the place that I went whenever I had to be AFK and needed to eat or shit, as well as to fish. You can also see the treasury we raided on day 24, just above that rock. Next up was visiting the campfire that I spent so long cooking at, and of course rerunning the Banks baking meta one more time. I then saw the cages that caused my second black screen, the sea post I rode to and sold all that meat at, the cave that I called home for the second half of my month on Old Faithful, roughly the area where my first death occurred at, the fort I rode to that ended up causing me so much pain, the place where my second death occurred, and then I went up to watch my final sunset. Watching this sunset, I was thinking about all of the stuff that happened on this stupid, massive, terrible, kind of amazing island. And it's times like these where you kind of remember what the Pirate Lord says.
Until then, farewell, and remember, it's not about the gold, it's about the glory.
And I gotta say, that quote does mean more to me after my 30 days on Old Faithful Isle as opposed to before it. After the sunset, there was only a few things left to do. First of all, I had to say goodbye to my chicken family and get rid of them the only humane way I knew how to, so sorry children, but you don't need to watch this. And then of course, launch off every firework I had. And after launching those fireworks, the sun rose and my 30 days on Old Faithful Isle came to an end. If you did enjoy the video, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, as again this video took quite a while to make and it was quite a painful and annoying video, so it would mean a lot to me. Also feel free to comment other stupid video ideas you might have for me. But other than that, it's been your boy Bandit Banks. Thank you all for stopping by, and I'll catch you in the next one.